Installing a processor and heatsink. Note: this video shows only the physical part of the replacement procedure. A processor replacement requires further actions to be taken, including an update of your system firmware to the latest level. Refer to the processor and heatsink replacement section in the ThinkSystem SR950 V3 user guide for more information. To install the processor onto a carrier. Note: do not touch the surface on the bottom of the processor. Make sure the handle on the carrier is in the closed position.
Align the processor on the new carrier so that the triangular marks align, and then insert the marked end of the processor into the carrier. Hold the inserted end of the processor in place and then push the unmarked end of the carrier down and away from the processor. Press the processor and secure the sides under the clips on the carrier.
To assemble the processor and heatsink.
If you are reusing a heatsink, use a syringe to apply 4 uniformly spaced dots of thermal grease on top of the processor. Each dot should contain about 0.1 milliliters of thermal grease.
Note: do not apply thermal grease when installing a CPU on a brand new heatsink. Thermal grease is pre-applied to the bottom of brand new heatsinks. Align the triangular mark on the heatsink label with the triangular mark on the processor carrier and processor. Press the carrier into place until the clips at all 4 corners engage. Visually inspect to make sure that there is no gap between the processor carrier and the heatsink. To install the processor heatsink module into the processor socket, carefully lower the PHM onto the processor sockets, aligning the 6 T30 screws with the guiding posts on the processor sockets. Rotate the anti-tilt wire bales outward until they engage with the hooks in the socket. Use a T30 screwdriver to fasten the 6 T30 screws following the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sequence shown on the heatsink label. Visually inspect the components to make sure that there is no gap between the screw shoulder beneath the heatsink and the processor socket. After replacing a PHM on the upper processor board, reinstall the following components. Refer to the following videos for the procedures. After replacing a PHM on the lower processor board, reinstall the following components. Refer to the following videos for the procedures.